mind. Well, the number to call 080-6464-1536. You can call to make your contributions, and some of you couldn't take your calls yesterday, and you can still call to talk about the issues we discussed yesterday, if you still have them in mind. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from.
Thank you very much. I heard you saying someone asked, no any other person than me. I was the one that asked about Major General Ilyas Bishallah. I want to know more about him. That is one. Then secondly, I also raised the issue of Oscar Pistorius. I think
the Blade Runner
with amputated limbs.
Yes,
then going further, Mr. Ferdinand, you see, history making rounds has always been so interesting, looking at past events. That's why I always say this, that for Nigeria to move forward, backward must be understood. We must understood backward before we can now take the whole step ahead. So history is extremely important, just like the way you are digging out facts, trying to enlighten us, trying to educate us, trying to give us vital and enriching information about what transpired yesterday. It's just like how the conversation yesterday was actually robust. It interests me very well. I was so glad.
Bisala was a senior Nigerian army officer, and the Minister of Bisala was a senior Nigerian army officer and the Minister of Defense during the military administration of Nigeria's head of state, Nigeria's fourth head of state, General Murtala Mohammed. Bisala was a coursemate of General Hassan Usman Katsina at the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst. Before becoming the Minister of Defense, General Bisala was the General Officer, 1st Infantry Division of the Nigerian Army in Kaduna from September 1969 to December of 1973, and also the Commandant of the Nigeria Defense Academy in Kaduna. General Bisala was implicated by Lieutenant Colonel B.S. Dinka's confessional statements after investigations into the abortive 13 February 1976 military rebellion in Lagos, which resulted in General Mohammed's assassination. Bisala was controversially convicted of conspiracy and concealment of treason by the secret Special Military Tribunal, and as a result, Bisala's complicity is not clear, because the federal military government at the time asserted that Bisala gave Dinka operational orders, while Dinka, under interrogation, stated that another officer, Major Rabo, provided the operational orders. So there are contrasts there. Importantly, Dinka's confessional statement shouldn't have been taken seriously, according to some pundits and analysts, because his statement was not corroborated. Meanwhile, he became very popular as a student of the University College in Ibadan when he represented Nigeria. That was at the games of the 1954 Commonwealth British Empire gathering in Vancouver, where he became the first African to win a gold medal in an international competition outside of the African continent in the long jump event. As a matter of fact, while we were kids, there was this exercise book. You see Ifejuna's Ifejuna jumping across the bar. This 2A, is it 2A or 2B exercise book? Then while we were kids in the primary school, we were using those books. I never really knew the real history of that picture until later on. Then he now finished University College Ibadan, where he was notorious for organizing school riots all the time, and joined the army. And that story of rebellion continued, and eventually was shot on the 25th of September 1967. So that was the first time military officers were shot on February 14, 2013. Hello, good morning. You're calling from? Okay, we've lost that. You can still call. The number is 080-6464-1536. In the early hours of February 14, 2013, Paralympic champion and double amputee Oscar Pistorius shot and killed his girlfriend, 29-year-old model and television personality, was also a law graduate, Rivers Steenkamp, at his home in Pretoria. Pistorius fired 4 shots through a locked toilet cubicle door using a 9mm pistol loaded with black talon. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Okay, we've lost that. Hollow point bullets designed for maximum tissue damage. Steenkamp was struck in the head, hip, and arm, and she died almost instantly. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello. Okay. Mr. Kafo, I want to find out what led to the.
Realizing the mistake only after breaking down the door with a cricket bat. Prosecutors, however, alleged he intentionally killed her following a heated argument and noting neighbors heard blood-curdling screams before the shots. On February 17, 2013, the case was in its earliest stages, following Pistorius' initial arrest and formal murder charge on the 15th of February. During this week, Pistorius remained in police custody as his legal team prepared guilty of murder. After multiple appeals, his final sentence was set at 13 years and 5 months. Oscar Pistorius was released from prison on parole on the 5th of January 2024 after serving nearly 9 years in jail. He currently lives under strict conditions, including therapy for anger management and a ban on speaking to the media. Yes, that's the short and long of the man Oscar Pistorius. We'll come back to answer that question. I think he said how Ironsi or why Ironsi was killed. But now let's look at the history of Ash Wednesday. Today is Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday in Western Christianity is the first day of Lent, occurring 6.5 weeks before Easter, between February 4th and March 11th, depending on the date of Easter. It is immediately preceded by Shrove Tuesday. Ash Wednesday is a solemn reminder of human mortality and the need for reconciliation with God, and marks the beginning of the penitential Lenten season. It is commonly observed with the distribution of ashes and with fasting. Eastern Orthodox churches begin Lent on Clean Monday and therefore do not observe Ash Wednesday. Together with Good Friday, which marks the crucifixion of Jesus on the Friday before Easter Sunday, Ash Wednesday is an obligatory day of fasting and abstinence for Roman Catholics, where only one full meal and no meal are to be consumed, and no meat are to be consumed. Although Ash Wednesday is not a holy day of obligation, Mass on this day is traditionally one of the most heavily attended non-Sunday masses of the liturgical year. Worship services are also held on Ash Wednesday in Anglican, Lutheran, and some other Protestant churches. In the early Christian, the beginning of the penitential season of Lent was symbolized by placing ashes on the heads of the entire congregation. In the Roman Catholic Church, the ashes are applied in the shape of a cross on the forehead of each worshipper on Ash Wednesday. These ashes are obtained by burning the palms used in the previous year's Palm Sunday service. Receiving ashes is not one of the 7 sacraments of the Roman Catholic Church. Therefore, anyone who wishes to receive ashes may do so, regardless of age, religion, or personal standings in the church. The ashes serve as memento mori and are often accompanied with some variation of the words, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. A period of preparation and fasting likely has been observed before the Easter festival since apostolic times, though the practice was not formalized until the First Council of Nicaea in the year 325 CE. It was a time of preparation of candidates for baptism and a time of penance for grievous sinners who were excluded from receiving Holy Communion and were preparing for their restoration. As a sign of their penitence, they wore sackcloth and were sprinkled with ashes. This form of public penance began to die out in the 9th century. It became customary for all the faithful to be reminded of the need for penitence and their own mortality by receiving a memento mori in the form of ashes, either sprinkled on top of worshippers' head or marked in the shape of a cross on their foreheads on the first day of Lent, hence the name Ash Wednesday. In the early centuries, fasting rules were strict, as they still are in Eastern churches. One meal a day was allowed in the evening, and meat, fish, eggs, and butter were forbidden. The Eastern Church also restricts the use of wine, oil, and dairy products. In the West, these fasting rules have gradually been relaxed. The strict law of fasting among Roman Catholics was dispensed with during World War II, and only Ash Wednesday and Good Friday are now kept as Lenten fast days. However, the emphasis on penitential practice and uh, almsgiving remain, and many Catholics also observe a meatless fast on Fridays during Lent. In addition, Catholics and other Christians often choose to give up specific pleasures such as sweet, alcohol, or social media during Lent as a way to foster simplicity and self control. Many use their cravings or desire for these items as a reminder to pray and to refocus on spiritual matters. Yes, this is about Ash Wednesday. And let's tell you about the Ash Wednesday bushfire, which started in Australia on the 16th of February 1983. Yes, on this very day, the Ash
Hello, Mr.
Wednesday
Ferdinand.
bushfire. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Mr. Ali Ogaiba. I'm calling from Akila Machunga Street, former Utonkoro.
Aliu Gariba, welcome. You are calling for the second time today.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I was very happy when I heard you talking about the Lent. It would interest you to know that today is the commencement of the holy month of Ramadan. Likewise, the Ash Wednesday, which is the Lent period of the Christians all over the world. So I'm using this medium to congratulate all Muslim faithfuls and all Christian faithfuls around the world for commencing this holy exercise that has been going on for years. So that when I heard you saying about this, I was so happy. So that's why I realized I need to call and then add my voice to this very day. As I speak to you today, I've started my Ramadan fast. In fact, I even wanted to attack you and say, Mr. Ferdinand, after my previous call, you did not congratulate me on Ramadan. So congratulations.
Okay, congratulations. I'm congratulating you now. But unfortunately, we can't congratulate everybody because Ayuba has already taken a very mighty half chicken and two wraps of amala this morning. So Ayuba is not part of the exercise today. So Aliu Garba has reminded us that both the Christians and the Muslims have started their fasting today. So we are saying congratulations with both Christians and Muslim brothers all over the world, but Nigeria in particular. Yes. On the 16th of February 1983, the Ash Wednesday bushfires in Victoria and southern Australia killed about 75 people. The Ash Wednesday bushfire, known in South Australia as Ash Wednesday 2, were a series of bushfires that occurred in southeastern Australia on 16 February 1983, which was Ash Wednesday in the Christian calendar. The fires became the deadliest bushfire in Australian history until the Black Saturday bushfire of 2009. In Victoria, 47 people were killed. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, that's Okoro Okoranfo.
Okay.
Calling from Owo Blue Education Center Village. and good.
Master, you are very
Thank
welcome.
God for today being the Ash Wednesday and Ramadan fast. And everybody knows today. I was asking my friends, look, this fasting looks at it's a miraculous one. The Christians are fasting, the Muslims are fasting, the traditionalists are also fasting towards one God. Now, why is it that everybody should not stay, live in peace? It's a period of what? Repentance, reconciliation, humility. In as much as it's a period of almsgiving, prayers, and fasting, but we should look inwards, examine ourselves individually, not like community or as a group, but everybody should examine himself or herself. At the end of the day, we know exactly where we're heading to. That is to say, everybody's heading to one home, one period. Thank God for today. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Mazi, for your contribution. Who is from a family of native doctors? Let's find out whether the native doctors are fasting too. Okay, Munashak. Munashak's from family of native doctors. And the native doctors started their fasting yesterday. They were even ahead of us. Well, the speed and ferocity of the flames added to abundant fuels and a landscape immersed in smoke made fire suppression and containment impossible. In many cases, residents fended for themselves as fire broke communication, cut off escape routes, and severed electricity and water supplies. Up to 8,000 people were evacuated in Victoria at the height of the crisis, and a state of disaster was declared for the first time in South Australia's history. Ash Wednesday was one of Australia's costless natural disasters. Over 3,700 buildings were destroyed or damaged, and 2,545 individuals and families lost their homes. Livestock losses were very high, with over 340,000 sheep, 18,000 cattle, and numerous native animals either dead or later destroyed. A total of 4,540 insurance claims were paid, totaling $476 million, with a total estimated cost of well over $1.3 billion for both states. The emergency saw the largest number of volunteers called to duty from across Australia at the same time, an estimated 130,000 firefighters, defense force personnel, relief workers, and support crew. Yeah, that is the situation. Then, still international events. On the 21st of February 1974, the last batch of Israeli soldiers left the west bank of Suez Canal, pursuant to a truce with Egypt. In 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, the canal was the scene of a major crossing by the Egyptian army into Israeli as a fallout of the Watergate scandal. Former United States Attorney General John N. Mitchell and former White House aides H.R. Hederman and John Enrichman were sentenced to prison. Mitchell and the White House aides were found guilty of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and perjury, and sentenced to trial and arrested. Yes, the Watergate scandal in the United States that started on the 17th of November 1972 when 5 men broke into the headquarters of the Democratic National Convention. The presidency was involved, and that led to President Richard Nixon's resignation. Before he was impeached by the House of Representatives, he had to resign, and becoming the first and only U.S. president in history to tender a resignation, because he had discovered that he would be embarrassed, and he was aware that the Senate would also impeach him, so he had to leave. And that paved way for the meteoric rise of Gerald Ford, who became to date the first and only U.S. president, to get into the presidency without the vice presidency and the presidency without ever being elected. The story of Gerald Ford is funny. Yeah, he was a minority member in the House of Representatives when he was selected by the president to become vice president, following the resignation of President Spiro Agnew, who was convicted for corruption issues and had to resign before he was impeached. That was in 1974. Spiro Agnew impeached, and President Richard Nixon now brought in the House minority member Gerald Ford to become vice president, to become his vice president. At that period, the Watergate scandal was really, really heating up in the US. It was really heating up. And just a few months later, the president was impeached. And the newly, shall I say, appointed vice president, yes, now found himself being president. So that's a very fast rise. If na for here now, they go say don't go do juju. Say na juju na they help am, na they follow am. To date, Gerald Ford became the first man, the first politician, and only politician in United States history to become vice president and president without being elected. And when he contested the presidency, in the next term of election, he contested with Jimmy Carter. He lost. As a matter of fact, he lost woefully. So, and he never ever contested again. So that is it. So the number to call 080-6464-1536. That's the number to call to make your contributions. 080-6464-1536. You could call to make your contributions as regard any issue, even the issues that we had already spoken about. So it mustn't be this very it mustn't be this very issue we are talking about today. Even the issues we talked about yesterday and you called, we couldn't really take your calls. You can still talk about them. Well, now let's look at other issues, international issues. As we have them. Yes, on the 19th of February in the year 356, Emperor Constantius II issued a decree closing all pagan temples in the Roman Empire. The persecution of pagans in the late Roman Empire began late during the reign of Constantine the Great, when he ordered the pillaging and the tearing down of some temples. The first anti-pagan laws by the Christian state started with Constantine's son Constantius II, who was an opponent of paganism. He ordered the closing of all pagan temples, forbade pagan sacrifices under pain of death, and removed the traditional altar of victory from the Senate. Under his reign, ordinary Christians began to vandalize pagan temples, tombs, and monuments. This persecution had proceeded after a period of persecution of Christians in the empire. From 361 until 375, paganism was relatively tolerated. This period of tolerance ended under the reigns of the three emperors, Gratian, Valentinian II, and Theodosius I, who were influenced by the Bishop of Milan, Ambrose. At his suggestion, state anti-paganism policies were reinstituted. As a penitent under the care of Ambrose, Theodosius was influenced to issue the Theodosian Decree of 391. Gratian also removed the altar of victory for the second time. The Vestal Virgins were disbanded, and access to pagan temples was prohibited. This was like a religious warfare in the early days, even to state level. Yes. Well, on the 20th of February in 1998, American figure skater Tara Kristen Lipinski became the youngest gold medalist in the history of the Winter Olympics with her feat in Nagano, Japan. She is also the youngest ever athlete to win a world figure skating title, doing so at the tender age of 14. She had achieved her Olympic record in the individual ladies singles event at the age of 15 years, 8 months, and 10 days. Tara Lipinski the two-time World Champion Series final and the 1997 US National Champion. Yeah, she is like over 40 now and currently an actress and a sports commentator. On the 20th of February 1933, Adolf Hitler secretly met with German industrialists to arrange for financing of the Nazi Party's incoming election campaign. The meeting was held by Hitler alongside 20 to 25 industrialists at the official residence of one of the leaders of the Nazi Party, Hermann Göring, in Berlin. The purpose of the meeting was to raise funds for the election campaign of the Nazi Party ahead of the German elections, which were to be held on 5th of March 1933. The Nazi Party wanted to achieve two-thirds majority to pass the Enabling Act and desired to raise 3 million Reichsmark to fund the campaign. According to records, 2 million Reichsmarks were contributed at the meeting. According to researchers, this meeting provided further evidence of the financing of the Nazi Party by big businesses in Germany. According to British historian Adam Tooze, the meeting of 20th February and its aftermath are the most notorious instances of the willingness of German big business to assist Hitler in establishing his dictatorial regime. The Nazi Party eventually won the elections and Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. And we all know what happens thereafter. He attempted to take over the entire world. Yeah, some historians will say he was a foolish man. He attempted to take over the entire world and orchestrated World War II after ensuring that Nazi Germany invaded Poland and Yugoslavia on the 1st of September 1939. Yes. Well, on the 22nd of February in the year 1797, the last invasion of Britain began near Fishguard, Wales, also known as the Battle of Fishguard. The invasion was a military battle of Great Britain by revolutionary France during the War of the Great Coalition. The brief campaign on 22nd to 24th February 1797 is the most recent landing on British soil by a hostile foreign force, and thus is often referred to as the last invasion of mainland Britain. The French General Lazare Hoche had devised a three-pronged attack on Britain in support of the Society of United Irishmen. Two forces would land in Britain as a diversionary effort, while the main body would land in Ireland. Adverse weather and ill discipline halted two of the forces, but the third, aimed at landing in Wales and marching on Bristol, went ahead. After brief clashes with hastily assembled British forces and the local civilian population, the invading forces' Irish-American commander Colonel William Taft was forced into unconditional surrender on the 24th of February. In a related naval action, the British captured two of its expedition vessels, a frigate and a corvette. Well, I'm taking this on the 22nd, is it 22nd? Yes, on the 22nd of February in 1974, Samuel Dyke attempted to hijack an aircraft at Baltimore Washington International Airport with an intention of crashing it into the White House to assassinate United States President Richard Nixon, but was killed by the police. He planned to do so by hijacking an airliner and crashing it into the White House on a day when Nixon will be there. It has been suggested, for instance, that the 2004 film dramatization of his life that Dyke coaling a naval station in 1903 for $2,000 in gold per year until 1934, when the payment was set to match the value of gold in dollars. In 1974, the yearly lease was set to $4,085. The base is on the shore of Guantanamo Bay at the southern end of Cuba. It is the oldest overseas U.S. naval base. Since the Cuban Revolution of 1959, the Cuban government has consistently protested against the U.S. presence on Cuban soil and called it illegal under international law, alleging that the base was imposed on Cuba by force. Since 2002, the naval base has contained a military prison, the Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp, for unlawful combatants captured in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places during war on terror. Cases of torture of prisoners and their alleged denial of protection under the Geneva Conventions have been reported, condemned internationally, even as the US government have not confirmed or denied these reports. Yes. Then let's look at the 1820 assassination attempt of British Prime Minister and cabinet members. Yes. Let's look at it before we leave the studio. On the 23rd of February 1820, a plot to murder all British government cabinet ministers, including the Prime Minister Lord Liverpool, was exposed in what is today known as the Cato Street Conspiracy. The name Cato Street Conspiracy came from the meeting place near London. The police had informations of a planned uprising were widespread in the industrial north. A third one, I couldn't allow a third one, I couldn't allow impeachment before he resigned. That's talking about Richard Nixon. Johnson is later acquitted in the Senate and remained as president. We're going to talk about this story in full when we come back here next week. That is the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, United States president in 1868. Though he later remained as president because the Senate cleared him and remained as president. And let it be on record here that every U.S. president that was impeached by the House of Representatives was later cleared by the Senate. On this note, we are calling it a day, and let's just use the opportunity once again to congratulate all Christians and Muslims for the beginning of their fasting period, particularly the Roman Catholics that is in the Christian fold. I want to congratulate all of you. The program, the production of History Desk Television and its issues in perspective. You know how we do it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Someone called yesterday that he wanted to buy books. We are sorry we could not be able to reach you, but after the show today, we'll try and reach out to you so that we hand over the books to you. We have them. We couldn't make the recommendations today, but we have all the books we are supposed to recommend to you yesterday. We still have all the books. By next week, recommend these books so that you read them. You can just go to Rampam Street and go to some of these bookshops and ask of these books on Nigeria's political history, particularly, even on world history and politics. You could get the books. And there are interesting write-ups on current affairs across the world. You can get them in the bookshops. And if you can't get hard copies, you can also get some of these books online and study them so that we know where we are really coming from. Thank you very much on behalf of the entire production crew led by Ayuba. Let us thank you. Let us thank you for being part of the show. For those of you who couldn't take your calls, next week we'll be here again. We can take them. Thank you very much. We are out. Well, you listen.